you start thinking about stock, money, what can I get for this, you start thinking, do I want to do this with someone else to enjoy every moment of the startup? For me, I knew that doing this, it's hard, it's lonely. Not a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs, so we could all be hanging out, but it's really hard to have someone to talk about the challenges that we go through every week, whether it's hiring, firing, raising money, running out of money. These are all really hard things to talk about. And even when you talk to other founders that are starting their own company, sometimes people don't want to talk about that. Because we all want to sound like, things are going well, things are doing really good, we're killing it, things could not be any better. We're getting so many downloads, we're making so much money. Meanwhile, you're shedding your pants and you're like, I don't know how we're going to make the payroll next week. It is that kind of stuff that it's important to have someone to talk about. And startups are challenging. So sometimes when you have a co-founder, one person will be here. They're feeling great. This is amazing. I'm all good. And the other person is really low. And that person needs to be able to be, hey, what's wrong? How can I help you? What are some of the challenges that you're going on your team? And sometimes that role will completely change. And the other person could be down, and it's really nice to have someone on your team that understands your challenges. Maybe they're not doing your same role, but they understand, I get it. You're having a hard time. Fundraising is really hard. How can I help? How can I make your life easier? And it's really nice to have that support. Also, it's good for someone to challenge your ideas. Most of the time, when you start a company, you're going out of gut. I think this will work really great. If we build all these features, the whole experience is going to be completely different. And as you start hiring people, people will start challenging you and telling you, do you have any data to back that up? I think one of the last people that I hired, we were just talking about features, and I was like, wouldn't it be great if we built this? And she looked at me and she said, do you have the data to back that up? I was like, whoa, no, but I think it'll be really, really cool. And it's nice when people start challenging you. You're not always going to be right, but it feels even better when you have to prove someone why you think there is value to that. So it's nice to have someone in your team that is not going to agree with you. It's not going to tell you you're the best. It's not going to tell you like everything that you do is perfect. They're trying to make you better. My co-founder often is telling me, hey, this is what you could be better at. And at first it sucks. Hearing someone that you care about, that you like, telling you you're not that good at this, or you're not a great public speaker, and you're like, well, I thought I did an okay job, and they're just pointing all these things out. It only makes you a better person, but you have to be open-minded and accept that. So I kind of cover all those points. So one of the first exercises that I kind of wanted to do today, and I think it's important for everybody to do, is to take a list of paper and write down what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. I did this, so on the next slides, I'll show you guys what are the things that I think I'm good at, and what are the things that I know for sure I'm not so good. But I'll give you guys, 5 minutes to just kind of try to come up with 10. They don't have to be specific. They could also be, some of your things that you're really good at could be things that you also can be a negative. So just think about it for a few minutes, and then I'll come back. Sounds good? All right, I'm gonna come back here. Hopefully everybody got a few points together. Anyone want to share one thing that they're really good at, and I think that they're really, or not bad at, but maybe not that good at? Anyone wants to share? Go ahead.
I'd say I'm a very straightforward person, but that could also be weakness because I can't sense to others.
Yeah, that's great when you have to give someone feedback. You just gotta make sure you don't hurt someone's feelings, right? Great. Anyone else? And go ahead.
Strategic as a strength. As a weakness, planning.
That's one for me. I can think about a vision, but when someone says, okay, let's break it down into sprints and break it down to little steps, that's when I'm like, ooh, that gets a little bit trickier because I got to start thinking of all the other teams. So that's one that I definitely, that's me. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I'm pretty good at problem solving, but I'm not good at problem instruction. I don't think I'm like a
Okay. Did anyone hear that? I kind of heard it. Not. Can you say it a little bit louder?
I'm not, well, I think I'm a good problem solver, but I don't think I'm good at, like, verbal learning. Like, when someone tells me to list instructions, I'll probably forget it easily.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So communication is key, especially in startups. Communicating properly among teams is one of those challenges that you constantly have to work in different processes to make sure that whatever you tell me is what we both agree on what I thought you said. Because some of the times you say, okay, good, let's go work on this. And then someone starts working on something completely different. It's like, whoa, where are you going? We did not agree on this. And it happens all the time. So you're always building like processes of how to improve communication. So I created my list. In some of them, my strengths, it's also part of my weaknesses. So like I said, I'm really good at coming out with like the vision and selling that vision. When it comes down to let's write it on paper and let's start trying to figure out month by month, that I'm not so good at. I'm really good at going and closing sales and doing the numbers, but putting everything on a spreadsheet, I think goal setting and projections goes together with spreadsheets. I think the whole spreadsheet stuff, I've gotten a lot better, but when I first started, my co-founder used to laugh at my spreadsheets because I was color coding everything and I was not taking advantage of spreadsheets the way that you should. But I've learned that along the way on a startup, you're gonna pick up a lot of skills that you didn't have, you didn't thought you'll gain, but eventually someone has to do that, and it's either you hire someone to do that skill or you're just gonna teach yourself how to do it, whether it's coding. I've learned like founders have to learn how to build a website or something like that because you gotta save on cost. Networking, this my co-founder I always laughed at. Like I go to an event, I will talk to everybody, I will network, I will get to know everybody's name. My co-founder, she prefers to kind of stay on the side and just let people approach her, but she's not so much of a networker. But if you put her in a public speaking room where she's done like thousands of people in one room, she kills it. And I know that. We've done TV, radio interviews, and most of the time, I'm aware that I'm not the best. So I'm like, you take it, you kill it. She's part of my team. For me, that's a win. So being self-aware of those things, a lot of the times people think, oh, I'm the CEO or I'm the founder, I have to do everything. No, give yourself permission that if you brought people into your team and they're better at these skills than you are, they're on your team. Take that as a win. Oh, hey, we're gonna do this together. You killed it. Help them train for it. Set them up with questions. They might ask you these questions. Here's how you should answer it. Like, use them for your advantage. She added the stubborn one. I didn't add that one in there. But I think that sometimes when I really get set into one feature and I'm like, really need to work on this, I will find my way around. I will go and talk to customers and say, hey, look, this is what people want. So it could be negative because sometimes it ends up being time consuming when I really get obsessed about something. And then, yeah, I guess I don't have to go through each one of them. Okay, but what I wanted to do with this exercise was that I wanted you to figure out the things that you were really good at and the things that you lack. So when you start coming up into like, okay, I want to build a team, what are the things that I can do? So there are some founders that are like, I can do them all. I don't need anybody to help me. But there are other people that they realize, well, I can come up with the vision and come up with the spreadsheets. Maybe I'm not the person that can build the product. And this happens. Not all developers are technical, or not all CEOs are technical. If you're doing a tech company, maybe if you want to start a restaurant, maybe you're not the chef, but you have an idea of how you want the business to run, and you've done all the math to make sure that you break even, but you need to hire someone that can run with those spreadsheets. So these are the roles that are really important. Can anyone think of big companies that are, I don't know, a perfect example of a visionary? Anyone? Any names? Google, Apple, Airbnb. Those usually, it's one person pitching a really big idea, but then What about operators? Maybe usually people would just see the picture of the visionary on the news and on the press, but for the operator, sometimes they're not the people that you hear about. So I put some names here of people that I think, like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. I think Elon is kind of like both visionary and architect. I mean, he built PayPal, and he's also doing all these projects that are huge vision. But someone like Sheryl, does anyone know who Sheryl is? Facebook, yes. So she was part of the Facebook team. She had a huge impact on helping the Facebook revenue model with advertisement. So Facebook wanted to figure out, that is now their biggest source of income, is advertisement. And while Facebook was growing and they were getting a lot of users, a lot of active users, she wasn't part of the founding team, but they needed someone on the team to figure out the numbers, because every company is trying to be profitable. And for startups, that might take a really long time. Someone like Uber, where they're giving away $10 for every free ride for anyone that signs up, eventually those $10 have to come back somewhere. So being able to figure out an ad model was an awesome idea, and it completely changed the direction of Facebook. So these are just an example of bigger companies, but I think when you're thinking about your own company or joining a company, where do you fit in here? I think you should start a company with 2, maybe 3 people, but you have to play multiple roles. Now, you figure out, okay, I know my strengths, I know who I'm looking for. You started attending different events, started looking for people, maybe you have a friend, I don't know. You found someone that is like, I found my perfect match. Well, the first person you're gonna pitch ever, before any investors, or outside of your family and friends, is gonna be someone to work with you. And that is the biggest pitch ever. Because you are pretty much selling a dream. You're just telling them, look, I'm not gonna give you any money because I don't have any. You're probably gonna have to put a little bit of your money while we figure things out. And they have to be okay with that. Sometimes they might say you have to quit your job and invest 100% of your time on this. You have no idea where you're going, because you might have one direction of where the product is going, and then you go live and you have to pivot. This happened to us. When we first launched a product, we thought it was going to be a tool for parents and kids. We put it out in the market. Turns out that everyone started using it. We're high school and university students. We had no idea that was going to happen, but then we quickly had to adjust, change direction, and over the years, we understand our why, and we knew what we were doing it, but the direction has changed. It is a commitment. A lot of the times we talk about don't bring work into home and home to work, but there'll be a lot of times where the startup takes so much of your time and energy that it's hard not to bring it with you. It will impact you in so many ways. Sometimes it feels like it's everything that you're talking about, especially in those early days. In the startup scene, there's a lot of culture about, hustle, work hard. If you are doing that, don't burn out. It's gonna be, you're running a really, really long marathon. Actually, you're running an ultra marathon. If anyone knows who that is, it's like you're running like 100 miles. So, like any athlete, athletes have mastered the skill of rest. So you can work as hard as you can, but make sure that you give your time for your family, to your friends, to rest. Sometimes ideas come when you're away from your desk, from your computer. I talk this often, all the time. I've been part of different incubators, accelerators, and for some reason people like to brag about how many hours they work. Oh, I worked 90 hours last week. It's like, good for you. Do you get any sleep? I slept 8 hours every single night this week. I think that's a bragging thing to do. So just make sure that you're investing your energy and your time properly, and align on the why. If you came with 2 people and you say, we're gonna do this because we wanna make an impact on people's life, or we wanna do this because we see a huge revenue opportunity, just really align on that, because when things get hard, that's what you're gonna go back to. If you want to change people's lives and you're getting feedback and you're getting there, people are sending you feedback, sending you emails saying your product has changed my life, that's going to give you energy. That's going to give you gas. That's going to keep pushing. But if you're trying to cash a check, when you go through the hard times, which every startup has to go through, where you have to make the decision, do I pay my employees or do I pay myself? If you're doing it for the paycheck, you're going to go through a hard, dry time where it might not be coming in, and you might quit. So you have to make sure that you align with that. So you can always call your co-founder and say, hey, I thought we both agreed that this is what we were doing this. So make sure you get your why straight early on. What not to do, so this is something that I learned in my first company. When you start your first company, it's easy to attract people that you already know, that are friends, but most of the time we attract people that are similar to us. When you attract similar people to you, you might attract someone that wants to do the exact same role that you want to do. I'm really good at sales. I'm really good at networking. Well, you don't need two of those. If you have one person that's really good at that, get someone else that is completely different. Go out of your comfort zone to make sure that you find this person. On my first company, since I started with a really good friend of mine, we were both wanted to do the same thing. And then ended up being sort of like, it just creates a little bit of drama. It's just like, nowadays, it's like we define the role early on. So when it comes to a certain decision, it's like, hey, this is sort of like my space. Sales decision is kind of like where I come in. I lean on you for feedback, but let me kind of own this part. Interest. A lot of people get started about, I mean, if you're someone that's really good at sales, a lot of people are going to be like, ooh, I want to work for you. Can I get some stock? Ooh, what can I do this for you? I can put part-time. I can work on the weekends. Just make sure that this comes back to the why. If there's interest, that they're committed, that they're in it for the long haul. Once you have figured out all the things that you have aligned, don't make him a co-founder right away. Give it a trial. You know, when you start, a lot of people usually joke around. It's like your co-founder is like your second spouse. So usually you don't meet someone and you say, okay, let's get married right away. There's like a trial period, and then you date, and if things are going well, then you think about it, and eventually you put the ring on, right? Same with founders. Like, meet people, try it out, you're building a relationship. It's really important that you align before you kind of make that huge commitment. And while you've made a commitment, you know, you're building trust, make sure that as you do that with them, that you're kind of checking all the boxes. Oh, this person, it's really easy to communicate. Oh, I feel this person is honest with me. Like, I never feel like they're bullshitting me. You want to make sure that the channel just feels like it's always honest. And if something doesn't feel like it's right, that you can ask. So how to find someone? I think I went with find someone that you work with in the past, and this could be someone that you work at school in a project, someone that you work with at a different company. Actually, my co-founder and I, when we were really early in undergrad, we both used to work at Town Shoes. So nothing related to what we're doing, but we have worked in the same space, and we knew that we could actually spend time together. The first question that comes up when people find out that my co-founder and I are in a relationship is, whoa, how can you spend so much time together? That's always the thing. It's like, I will kill if I work with my wife. I couldn't do that. That comes up all the time. So make sure that it's someone that you can spend time with, you can work with, you have worked with in some capacity, and find great communicators. If you can communicate clearly, things are going to happen. You're going to move faster. You're going to be able to get shit done. But if you can't, there's going to be a lot of confusion. You're not going to be clear on target, on strategy, on execution, and that will hurt you in the long run. Sometimes people don't want to tell you what they're thinking, and it's okay, but if you build trust, you should be able to tell your co-founder, look, I'm upset. We haven't made any money. Look, I'm pissed off. You're making more money than I am. Look, I'm upset. This office sucks. You need someone to tell you that, because sometimes you just put your head down and you're just kind of working away and you don't notice everything else around you. I think some of the things that my co-founder is really good at is she's really good at spotting Other people, if they're not happy, if there's something going on, sometimes I miss those things. I don't catch them. But she'll come to me and say, hey, I think this person might be a little bit upset about something, or I think they're going to bring this up on the next 101. She's really good at catching that. Maybe, I don't know how I don't see it, but she's always right. So now every time she comes up to me and says, keep an eye on this person, usually she tends to be right. Start small. 2 founders is great. You kind of argue it out, you figure it out, then you move forward. 3 could become a little bit dramatic because maybe the other person wants to lean on the other person, and it will always feel like 2 against 1. And if it happens too often in decision making, then eventually the other person is like, oh, I feel like you two have teamed up to be against me, and you don't want to start that drama. But you might have to. You might have to bring a technical person if both of the co-founders are not. But then again, not everyone has to be a co-founder. You can just hire someone else as an employee, but not a co-founder. And okay, so we got to the point. We found someone that I've worked with. We agree that we're gonna work together. Now we're at this fun stage where we're like, okay, this relationship is gonna work. Now it's time to establish the roles, and this is what I was talking about early, where if you're sales, just let me do the sales. If you're marketing, get advice from each other, but don't overlap, because then who's the lead? You know, I said don't have too many chefs in the kitchen, but there's no 2 captains, there's no 2 chefs. Just make sure that you own it. You own that space, and if something goes wrong, you also own it. Okay, I was wrong. That sales decision did not work. That marketing decision did not work, but you only learn from your mistakes. So if you fail fast, but learn from it, and then evolve. Build systems. So what do I mean by this? Communication. In our company, we have weekly meetings, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. Today we did our end of the week meeting. It happens every Thursday from 5 to 6. But it's sort of like our way where we communicate everything that's happening. You're always doing little things. So some companies have like stand-up meetings, first 5 minutes of the day. You talk about what you're working on that day. But make sure you create something that is steady, that you can lean on. Like, okay, every morning we talk about what we're doing, and then at the end of the week we review the work. Create those systems. Create how you're going to communicate, figure out how you're going to track your KPIs and everything. It's important that you set that early on, and you might not know it all, but start building sort of that culture of how you guys are going to work, because as you bring someone else in, it's much, much easier when you already have sort of like a guideline than have no idea, haven't figured anything out, and then now you have a third person. It's like, now you're gonna be part of this mix, and we have no idea where our communication happens. We talk to each other on Messenger, we talk to each other via text message, and you have no track of that. Like, I don't know, things that we use in our company a lot, Google Sheets. I feel like we use a ton of Google Sheets. All our communication happens on Slack. Used to have, when we first started, it was all in Facebook Messenger, but it was just like so many different topics, and like you couldn't find the conversation, like maybe something that you talked about like 3 weeks ago. But if you create a Slack and it's like ideas channel and marketing ideas and all that, then you can easily find specific points that you might mention that you might want to bring back. And once you created all this system, create a founders agreement. That is like a cleanup document, a prenup, sorry. So you have agreed that you guys are going to work together. We're going to try it out. This is how it's going to work. Because you're a co-founder, I'm going to give you certain percentage of the company. What a founders agreement does, it says, okay, well, we're not going to get all of our equity right away. We're going to get it in 4 years. So you won't get anything if you don't finish the first year, for example. But if it doesn't work out, then they're not walking away with a huge chunk on the company, which could be a huge impact on you trying to raise money if an early employee founder walks out with 50% of the company. That an investor will be like, well, I'm not going to invest on the only 50% that you have. So you create like a strategy of how much. Usually it's 4 years. You get 20% on the 25% on the first year, 25% on the second year, and so on. And that's sort of like a trial period. So just make sure that you put it all on paper. Sometimes founders agree, shake their hands, And if things get a little bit weird, messy later on, and you have nothing to go back to, that could lead to a mess. Founders breakup do happen. I've been to a lot of accelerators and incubators where they brought it. People are like, us? No way. We're like inseparable. And then you go through the hard things, and people might say, hey, this is too hard. This is impacting my mental health. This is impacting my happiness, and I just want out. So make sure that you prepare. Always prepare for worst case scenario. I always like to have best case, middle, and worst. And that's with revenue, team. What could, if everything goes to shit, you should be prepared for that. Okay, so now you have the team, you have the agreement. It's time to put your heads down. No more trying to find the right people. We have a hypothesis. Now we're gonna put our head down. What are you gonna do in those first 6 months? Do we have any ideas? If you're the visionary, what are you doing? There's only 2 of you. You have agreed on a problem that you want to solve. It's easy to know what the operator is doing. I'll get rid of that one right away. The operator is building. If you're building a tech company, he knows what to do. Okay, we're gonna start building something. But what is the architect and what is the visionary doing? Do we have any ideas? 6 months where product is being worked on. What are the other 2 people work on? Yep.
Market research.
Market research. That's a really good one. Anyone else?
Oh no, same thing. I was gonna say like customer research, so see if there's an actual demand or any sort of customer side.
Definitely. Yeah, so a lot of research. When I was first building my company, I went to Dundas Square, like literally Dundas Square, and I started surveying people with my hypothesis. Hey, you're a parent. Do you hate how much your kid's using your phone? Like I was asking little things just to start getting data. Would people use this? It's my hypothesis. All right, so you want to start looking at products. What are competitors doing out there? How can we do it better? How can we design it better? How will the sales channel work? Who can I sell this to? You want to start figuring all these things out because you don't have a product, but you can have a landing page, an MVP. Can I get 1,000 people to sign up before we launch? That's an exciting metric. 1,000 people that are waiting for this product to be live. So start getting things to validate your idea. Don't wait until the product is out and ready to go to, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think you could explain just a bit more about what each of the distinct people are, or distinct roles are?
Yeah, so the visionary, it's thinking big picture. What is this company it's going to do? What is the impact that it's trying to make? What is it going to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? They're pitching the investors. They're trying to figure out, here's how we're going to sell. Here's how the process could work. It's all ideas, right? The only way they're testing those ideas is by talking to people and getting validation. Whether it succeeds, that's the operator or the architect. The architect is figuring out all these spreadsheets. Okay, well, let's just think about if we're building this product that's going to cost $100, how do we make a profit? You're really trying to figure out how do we break even? Even as founders, like you need to think about at what point do we start paying ourselves? You have to start thinking, well, we need to get to 100,000 users that are paying this much per year, so then we can start putting some money in our pocket. Or at first, you're burning a lot of money, but you need people to start thinking about all these different strategies. For us, our architect also started thinking on the marketing side. She was, okay, how do we get people talking about what we do? She loved writing. She loves communications. We didn't have a product to sell yet, but then she started pitching the press not about our product, but mentioning around the problem. It's like, what do we think about the product? She started blogging and throwing our name in there, and that was a huge impact on SEO. We started working on SEO really early on, and that was all the strategy around how to build sort of like momentum on something that wasn't built yet. And then our operator, they were just heads down building the actual app, the first version. So it was very easy for them to know, okay, I know what I'm doing for the next 6 months. But for us, what do we do? We don't have a product to sell. So you just need to you're just testing hypotheses and prove yourself that whether you're right or wrong. Someone had a question back there?
Oh, I was just gonna say, so the architect like kind of needs a visionary to build around their idea.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sometimes there is a lot of planning. Like sometimes the three of them are sitting, it's like, okay, I have this crazy idea that I want to build this. And then the operator will be like, we can never build that. Okay, scratch that.
Could be a visionary and an architect or like a.
Well, sometimes it could be,
More than one.
right, sometimes this could be one person. Sometimes this could be just two people that play both of the roles. It really changes. It depends on the team that you put together. And the skills that you have in the team. Yeah, go ahead.
So I mean, if you're a sole proprietor, then you're doing everything, right? But then the structure of the business, then it's pretty straightforward. But if you have more than one person, obviously, how do you consider the structure of the business? And maybe it's not a big deal when you're starting, but what's your?
So when you're starting, you're trying to figure all this out, and you're trying to find something that works. You don't know if it works. It's a problem for you. Maybe it's a problem for your parents and your friends, and they say, yeah, I agree. This is a problem. But it wouldn't make sense to start hiring people to start doing all these things if you don't have the data to support it. Then you're burning money. Then you're paying people salaries. And what happens if you put it in the market and no one wants to use it? You just build something that nobody cares about. That's time invested, money invested. You didn't prove anything. So it's always better to have some sort of validation. Whether how you launch it doesn't hit how they expect it, you can always pivot. But you have some data to prove you that there is a need for that. So I would say, like, if you're starting solo, then you're gonna hire people, then they're gonna work for you. You don't want people to just be like, hey, I'm just working for you because you're paying a paycheck. You want them to believe in the product too, because then if they understand the why, it's like, oh, this is why we're building this. They will have a clearer picture. Does that make sense? Yeah.
That makes sense, but also within this, I guess, you know, the whole, I guess there's still some time for that, I guess. Sole proprietor versus, what's the right word? The name escapes me now, but your company structure.
Yeah. Well, here we're talking about you don't even have a company. You just own everything, and you haven't even, you're just your baby right now. You haven't even gotten anything off the ground. Things are really early on. Yep, go ahead.
So you said that the operator is the one who can build the app, and the architect can actually build about the issue. About
Yeah.
What if the computer reads the blocks? They can,
Yeah, the architect and the operator could be the same, right? It could be a whole product that is just like, we're gonna build a SaaS model, and like we're figuring out the model, and I'm also building the model with the system that I'm building. Like it really depends.
Okay, but you said that they will talk about the app before that that's launched, right?
Yeah.
So my question is, if another company that's doing the same thing read those blogs and actually, make the same product?
Well, it's fine. Like for a startup, you usually worry about what happens if something creates the same product. That's fine. Really, ideas everybody thinks of similar ideas. It's really about the execution. So you might create a very similar product, but the way you approach the market, the way you deliver, the things that you do could be completely different, and that can help you win the market. Some people might start with a completely different market, and you might beat them just because even though you build the same product, you just started working with one that was more attracted, and those people will start telling other people, so you start growing with word of mouth, and then once your audience starts growing, then you're starting to create loyal customers. So then you start thinking about retention and how do I keep those users? Is it about pricing or is it about features? Those are problems that will happen later on. But for now, it's just competitors. There will always be competitors. It'll be hard to really come out with a product that's like, oh, there's nothing in the market. Because even if you start doing really well, there's a competitor right behind you. It's like, this company is doing really well. Let's try to replicate it. So then there's all the things that you could do to beat your competitor, whether it's gamification, pricing, something like that. Yep.
I have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
So to validate your hypothesis, how many data or how much data is enough to validate?
I mean, some people say 10 people. Whatever you collect from 10 people is the same that you'll collect from 100 people. When I was standing here at Dundas Square, I was trying to get like 100, but I think some people would talk to me, other people would be like, who's this guy, and like completely avoid me. The more data you can collect is good. You can do it through surveys. You can always start with one thing, and then if you need to go back out again and ask more people, do it. Like you can do surveys on websites. You can do surveys at schools. Like I found schools are the best places where people will be willing to talk to you. Like don't be shy. It's hard to get out of your comfort zone to talk to random people, but if you can, do it. Like the worst that can happen is someone tells you, I don't care, and then walk away. It's just like, it's okay. You need 100 no's to get one yes. And if you're okay with that, then that's just another thing that you have to do.
Can I ask you a second?
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's okay. Okay, then, let's say your goal is 100 respondents. I know there's third parties that do market research for you. Would you say it's a suggestion to do, to use a bit of data towards the third party market research?
Oh yeah, I mean sometimes if you start seeing a trend and a lot of people are talking about a specific problem and you're like, this is something that's gonna blow up, that could also be a sign of like there needs to be there's a need for this. Like when we started my company, it was about screen time and digital distractions, and then at the same time there were tons of articles and research that were talking about the actual problem that this was causing in the classroom. So I actually started reaching out to the researchers and being like, hey, can we work together? So I ended up moving to Boulder, Colorado for a couple of months working with this researcher. So yeah, if you can get your hands on the researchers that's doing similar research, talk to them. Those people get excited to talk about the things that they're doing. So take advantage of that. Okay, so moving on. So you started working on your first 6 months, you're trying to figure things out, and then you found gold. Gold can be anything from you found a group of people that really resonate with your product. You find a group of people that are willing to buy your product. So you need to define what's gold. Like how long are you gonna keep doing this until you're like, we found it. We found product market, well, I can't think of the word. So you figure something out and you're like, okay, people want this product. For us, we found the first kind of group of customers that continue to download the app and continue to use it. So we're like, okay, can we double down on it? If we invest more money into advertisement, could we attract more users and they will continue to use the app? That is one example, but another one is like we then started selling to universities. And when I started selling to universities, like, okay, I was able to sell this to someone else. Can I do that again? Can I go to another person and try to sell this? So then I had to start creating like a sales plan and a sales model that had to come out of my head, because a lot of the time as a founder and you're testing hypothesis, everything's on your head. So you're like, okay, how do I turn this into a piece of paper or into like something that someone else can go ahead and do themselves, so that it could be replicated? Now it's 2 of us doing sales, well, that's even better. That means that there's more money that we can make. So when it says, how can you make it better? Is it the user experience that you can make better? Is it the sales process? Like, are you lacking the right set of skills to sell? Maybe you're like an okay salesperson, but if you bring someone with this kind of expertise, they will make it way better. Or even when it comes to product, like you're getting people downloading the app, but they're not sticking around with it. Should you hire someone that has understanding of how to keep users? Like, these are the things that you need to start thinking about. And then the question will come, do I do it? I'm gonna become a salesperson. I'm gonna start gotta go to Mars, take a couple of sales training courses, and I'm gonna figure out how to become better. Or do I wanna say, you know what, I'm gonna go and hire someone new? You always have to think about, once you start hiring people, everything starts changing a little bit. There is now cost. Now you have to think about your burn and how much money you're spending every month. So are you the one missing the skill, or are you willing to learn that skill, or are you willing to find that skill? So you have to make sure that you do that before you go and hire someone else. So you decide, we need to hire someone. It's time to bring in the first person into the team. So you have your co-founder, you two have been working for the last 6 months, you have improving models, you're figuring out how to do sales to people, but your hands are so tied up. There's only so many hours in the day, and there's so many things that are taking your time. So the first thing that I like to do is, why do I want to hire someone? I take a sheet of paper, and it's like, here are all the things that I'm doing every day. And then it ends up being a pretty long list. And then I'm like, what are the things that I enjoy doing? What are the things that I spend time doing that maybe I shouldn't be doing, or maybe I'm not so good doing? So then I start kind of highlighting those things. And that's sort of what starts creating sort of your job posting. Your first job posting is going to be highlighting those points. Like, okay, this person needs to be able to do this, this, this. Usually when someone in our team is like, oh, we want to bring someone into the marketing team, it's like, why? What are the things that you want them to do? What role is this person going to be playing? Are they trying to, if you were able to remove this job from their hands, are they going to perform better? If I no longer have to do marketing, then I can just focus 100% on sales time, and that's going to result into more revenue. That's some of the things that you need to start thinking about, and then that's how you make the decision, okay, it's time to bring someone new. So I usually say you're going to fire yourself from that position. You're going to fire yourself from doing sales because you brought someone that is better than you. Usually you want to bring someone that you're going to learn from. So you calm down, you have all this sales plan here that really work really well for you, and now you're going to ask them, here's what I've been doing, how do we make it better? And this person might have some experience doing sales, and they're going to start saying, here's what you can do better, and start fixing your processes. And next thing you know, your performance has gone up. So firing yourself is something really fun to do, but it's also really hard to do, because as a founder, you want to be involved in everything. You want to be in every part of the process. You want to know everything about the user journey, everything about branding, everything about the features. But once you give yourself permission to say, I hire this person because they're going to make this better, and you kind of just let go of that, it is so relieving to pass that to someone else. And then you start seeing the impact, because now you have more time on your hands, so you can double down on the things that you were doing really, really well. So now you decided that you hired the first person, the second person, now the company really starts to grow, and now it becomes a whole different challenge. You have to start creating culture. Culture is the DNA of your company. It will make you different from the next company that works next to you, or if you work in a co-working space. The way that you interact with your team is super, super important. But you have to start creating values. So you and your co-founder were working in one way. You brought the third person. You're working in a very specific way. And now there's like a mix, because now you bring in someone that you never worked with before, and you kind of, when you first started your first company, maybe you're working out of your basement or a house, and now it's a third person in the room, so the dynamic is for sure going to change a little bit. Ideally, to something, you attract people that are going to make things better, and then you have to create values. Okay, here's what we believe on. So like I said earlier, we believe that everyone in our company needs to get enough sleep, that they work hard, but they also invest on themselves. So you need someone that's going to come in and also believes in those things, because they will appreciate, okay, I want to work for someone that cares about work-life balance. I want to be part of that. But it's really hard to try to convince someone that's like, I want to work 24/7 to do the same. So make sure that they align. Make sure that they're different than you. Don't bring someone that is exactly like you. Bring someone that's going to spice things up a little bit, like it's going to make things interesting, and they're going to bring new skills. Maybe they work at a different company and they picked up the skills that you were like, oh, we're not doing that. I think I'm going to start doing that. I love when people come in. It's like, oh, I work at this company in San Francisco, and we used to do stand-up meetings things every day. I'm like, tell me more. How do we do those? So we do that. We have, so our company values is autonomy. So we let anyone back up why are they doing certain things, make the decisions. I don't need to be involved in every single decision. If you have the data to back it up and you can prove that to me, then you own. If you own iOS, if you own product, if you own sales, then sometimes you have to make some decisions. I can't be involved in all decisions. And be bold when you're doing that. Like sometimes you just got to take ownership of that. And be committed. If you tell someone that you're going to do something, do it. And go 100%. If someone is counting on you, you have to make sure that that person is supposed to deliver this, that they're going to do that. And attention to detail. And this comes with communication, design, the way that you communicate with other people. Taking care of all those things, how the people see you from the outside, whether it's your branding, your marketing. You want to make sure that you really keep an eye on all those things so that it's cohesive across all the products that you have out there. You want to make sure that the message and the way that you represent your company is the same way that someone else in your team is doing it. Otherwise, it's like one co-founder says one thing, one employee says one thing. Are we all working for the same company? And last, be human. We're all humans. We are not perfect all the time. So we understand that sometimes we might not finish things on time because life happens and you might have to go to the doctor. So be okay with that. One of the things that we make sure is that people socialize, people talk to each other, they treat other ones with respect. It's very important for us that people do that. And then as we continue to grow, we started creating company rituals. My favorite, and I think the team's favorite, is Prosecco goals. Prosecco goals is every company has KPIs, key performance indicators, and you track those. In our case, we track that weekly, monthly, quarterly, and at the end of the year. The first thing we do in January is we look back at the previous year and we see how we perform. And then we start setting targets of how do we want to perform next year, whether it's from the sales team, marketing team, whatever it may be. We all set goals. And if we hit them, we have Prosecco goals. Why Prosecco? Every Thursday, the first Thursday of every month, we have like a team social. We go out for dinner or bowling or yoga, skating. We go out together. And one day, I brought Prosecco for the team, and turns out everyone in the team loved Prosecco. So then I'm like, okay, well, Prosecco is every time we accomplish something awesome, like being profitable for 3 months straight or really kicking ass on our quarterly earnings, then we get a couple of bottles of Prosecco. So everyone gets super excited because every team gets to pick them, and they have to get approved, but it's a really good way to let your team come up with things, with goals that they can achieve. They can be easy. It can be like, oh, we're going to do the same thing that we did last year. We have to put a growth factor into that. But if you allow people to make this decision and allow them to celebrate, then you're empowering them. Then, like I mentioned, we do our Monday meetings and Thursday meetings. So every Monday, we talk about it's going to happen this week, and Thursday, we talk about whether we complete it or not, and if not, then on Friday, it's sort of like your day to finish it. Yep, you have a question back there?
Yeah, I was wondering how many full-time employees do you have?
8. Yeah.
And what are your revenue margins?
I'm not going to share that. But for a startup, us as a startup, is one of the things that we really been focused on is being profitable. A lot of companies, tech companies, they usually raise a ton of money before they start thinking about, okay, are we burning? Are we making as much as we're burning? For us, that is the one thing that we care about. So we're lean on everything that we do. That's why we're a team of 8. While some companies want to raise a lot of money and hire a big sales team, for us, it has been finding people that are willing to wear multiple hats. One of the things for our team that I'm really proud of when we hire people is that everyone is an entrepreneur. I know that at some point, they're all going to start a company. So they all come in, they're ready to learn. They just want to be part of the action. They want to pick up new skills because they want to start their own company. And I love that about them. They're all like, sometimes you hire someone, it's like, here's what your role entails, but most of the time, you end up doing other things. Like, well, you have to also do your own research and development, and sometimes you might have to sell to a different market that we haven't sold, but that's because we're trying a new channel. So sort of that's what we do. It's just like, we like to keep it lean. We're a small team, but a very attractive team. Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat that?
The weekly
Oh yeah, so KPIs. If you're not measuring anything, you can't improve. One of the things that we learned early on, back in 2018, we were part of Techstars. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of Techstars. It's an accelerator. They're based out of the US. They started here in Canada. Now they have a program here in Toronto. They have a program in Montreal, I believe. And the first thing that you do, it's a 3-month program. It's really, really, really intense. Like, you're working all the time. You set these KPIs, and from the time you start your company to the time that 3 months are over, your product has completely changed. Your team has completely changed. So there are some founder breakups because you go through such a stressful time that some people are like, I can't do this. But they make you come up with your 3 KPIs that matters. Every company has KPIs that matters. For us, is new users, active users, and revenue. Those are the 3 things that we look at every single week. Are we improving? We went down. Why did we go down? Sometimes new users is high. Someone wrote about Flipped and we got a ton of downloads on the App Store. Then that means that active users went up, but then trials didn't go up at all. Trials is money. Why are we leaving money on the table? Why are we not doing wrong? Are we not showing the tutorial or the pricing at the right time? These are all things that we're looking at, and we're always trying to experiment how to improve. So when you have 3 things that you're measuring, it makes it really easy for your team and you hiring people to know what is our North Star, what are we trying to do. Before Techstars, we were not really tracking our KPIs, and it made it hard. It made it hard to sell it to other people on the team. It made it hard to know whether we were improving or not. So set KPIs early on. And obviously you don't have a baseline when you start in a company, but at least a KPI could be that in 3 months we want to have the product launch and we want to have 100 users. It could be something as basic as that, and then once you start collecting data, then you can start trying to find ways to improve it. Yeah.
Sorry, last question.
Go ahead.
And I was just wondering, did this launch in 2014 or 2016? Because I read up on it and I've used the app, so
Oh, awesome.
that's why I'm curious.
So we incorporated really early. We actually started in 2016, but early on, 2015, that's when I was going to Dundas Square. That's when I was doing the research. That's when I was trying to figure out who are going to be my co-founders. It's a big decision when you're going to commit 100% of your time into something big. You want to have some assurance that this is going to work. If you're going to pitch it to other people and tell them to do the same, you have to kind of have the data to say, hey, look, I've done the research, it's going to work. And then they're like, I kind of believe you, but I want to do more research to see if it's going to work. So we spent a lot of time in sort of like development and research and trying to figure out. A lot of people thought that what we were trying to do was impossible. Like there was no way you can do that on iOS. And we proved them wrong. So you have to have the right team that has the right mentality to say, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna figure out a way. If you're aligned on the why, you're gonna find a way. Whether you have to circle around, build a different product, you'll find a way. But if you don't know why you're doing it and you start running into obstacles, you're gonna quit. You can say, things got too hard. I don't wanna do this. I was more safe at my job, sitting down, making comfortable salary, than a startup where you don't know how much you'll make, when you're gonna get paid. Maybe you don't want to start paying yourself because you wanna pay someone else. Yeah.
I may have missed it, but you mentioned Techstars a few times. Was that when, like, you kind of took off with the company? Like, can you speak to the role of Techstars in your company?
Yeah, so Techstars happened in 2018. We launched the company in 2016. So between 2016 and end of 2017, we were growing. We had paying users. We had a lot of active users. We had people talking about us, but we didn't have like a North Star. So a lot of times I left with my co-founders, like we weren't really sure what we were doing. We were doing something, it was growing, it was getting traction, but we weren't measuring it right. We were really first-time founders trying to figure this whole thing out. And Techstars put us in with 9 other companies that were in around similar stage, and they just threw us into this program, and it was like, prove it. Prove that you got something. If you're not hitting it, then you gotta change. You gotta try something different. Try selling to other people. Try doing different models. So it's like a crash course of figuring out whether you have something there or not. And a lot of the companies now like are still alive. Like some of them fail, but if you're gonna fail, you might as well know early on. Then continue to. Someone said to me once, "Don't be a zombie company where like you're not growing, you're not doing anything." It's just like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that every year we're improving. And for me, improving is not how big my team is growing. For me, that's not success. For me, success is how many lives are we touching? How much are we including new users, active users? Are we paying? Are we increasing revenue? Are we profitable? Those are the things that make me excited. That's what business is all about. You're solving a problem, you're paying the bills. So that's what Techstars was super helpful. They do host events in Toronto all the time. If you're looking to join the tech scene, it's a really good place to just meet founders, hear ideas, see pitches. So I recommend that you go. They also do a demo day, and you can see companies pitch their product to investors, and that can just teach you how to pitch investors. But you only get like 2 minutes or something like that. So you have to get really quickly how to get to the point. In fact, the first week of Techstars, they do this thing called Mentor Madness, and it's speed dating with 10 mentors, and the mentors are like investors, people working in like banks, and all industries, like really high level positions. And you get 20 minutes to talk about your business and how and the big idea. And it was the hardest thing, because at first you're not used to doing that in 20 minutes. But we did that with 100 different people in the first 2 weeks. By the time you get to the last week, you get to the point really quickly. It's like, here's what we do, here's what we could do better, and then you're actually strategizing. The first few weeks was you trying to say what your product was, and you're like, why don't you get it? But that's the benefit of that program, is that it will speed up your process. So there's incubators that will kind of get you started with the idea. Once you think you're ready to move to the next stage, you can go to the accelerator. And I was part of both, an incubator and accelerator. And some of them will give you money. Some of them will give you $30,000, $100,000. They take a cut, but it also speeds you up. If you're early on, if you need connection to mentors, founders. Network is everything, guys. It's like start investing on your network early on. I'm an immigrant. I came from Colombia. I didn't know a lot of people here. And through Techstars and the tech industry, I've met so many people. I feel like every time I go to a tech event now, it's like, oh, I know everybody here. So make sure that you're building your network, and not just here, elsewhere. It's like in the US, I spent 3 months doing like a road trip in the US, meeting with VCs and getting feedback and understanding how can this apply in the VC model. And like they're just asking hard questions, but you want to get to that point where people are asking you uncomfortable questions, and if you don't know how to answer, you got homework to do. And that's a good spot to be. Go ahead.
How did you get the press involved?
How did I get the press involved? So really early on, in fact, a founder yesterday was asking me, one of my investors is starting a company. He's always done B2B, but now he's doing B2C. And he was asking me, tell me more about B2C. How does it work? So he was like, how do you get press early on? So because we're a lean company, I didn't want it to start paying for a ton of advertisement in Facebook. It could get really, really expensive really quickly. So we're like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. We don't have the money to start paying for advertisement. We don't even know who we're gonna advertise. I'm not gonna advertise to everybody because that doesn't make any sense. So the way that we started really early on is my co-founder, the one that loves writing, she started writing blogs first about the space that we're in and throwing our name in there. Then when we launched, she started writing to people. It's like, here's what this company started to do. Our first article was the Ryerson, and a few days later, it was BlogTO that wrote about us. That led to users, and then that has been a whole process of building our SEO. And eventually now, every week, now we get at least one article written about us, and we have New York Times, Washington Post, TechCrunch, everyone has written about us, but it took a long time and a long investment of getting our name out there. It's like we decided here are all the spaces that we want to rename at. It was like kids and smartphones or mental health. Like we circle all the topics that were like, just mention us in some sort of way. And now that has become a huge channel of bringing new users every single day for free. We don't pay, like usually our investors like, how do you get so many users for free? SEO, invest on it, get people talking about you, co-work with other companies on writing blogs, pitch other people, read how they write an article in their style of writing, and say, hey, here, you should write about us. You write about this topic a lot, and here's how you write. That's actually how we got into TechCrunch. We read this whole article about this guy, how he writes, how we ended up finding another article where he wrote about how do I like to be pitched, and then we did exactly that, and then we got featured on TechCrunch. Yep.
So you wrote to them?
I didn't, my co-founder.
So actually wrote to the
Yeah.
Sony and Bloxio, and then
Yeah.
got back?
Yeah, so like start small. Start with local universities, whatever you can get your hands on. Like, don't be picky. All you're trying to do is get backlinks. That's how SEO is built. So as many backlinks as you get to your website, and then you start going for the bigger ones. So, and sometimes people won't write about you. Sometimes, like for education, we're like, okay, school starts every like August and September. We need to get into the Washington Post where they write about this topic. And sometimes you won't get picked up because they have their own deadlines. But we created a spreadsheet of name, email. Like, you can find people's emails on Twitter a lot of the time. If you do like name, and then name of the company, it might appear there. So it started coming up with ideas of how do we find people's emails if we can't find them online. Tweet them, build a relationship with them, and now we have, like, we check in on them. Like, we might not have an article, but we just we have a person that builds a relationship with them to say, hey, how are things going? Are you all right? Like, just random conversations on Twitter.
So you found specific journalists?
Yeah, you don't want to pitch everybody. You want to pitch someone that writes about your topic. Because there's people writing about business, people writing about tech, so you want to be as relevant as you can. It's the same thing with investors. Don't go and pitch every investor. Pitch investors that care about your space, understand your space, because you don't want to get people, you don't want to just get money, you want to get smart money. You want someone to tell you, I got connections, I can help you get to the next step. So you want to make sure that everything's targeted to your space. Yep.
You mentioned about start small from a local publisher. How about your product? When are you ready to start pitching for journalists? Like, not at the idea stage, with data? Good enough? 400 users, 10 maybe?
So one of the things that I've always said is you're never going to be happy with your product. It's always an evolution. But press, there are certain things that are free and you get one chance. So if you're going to get a big article talking about you, New York Times, Washington Post, you want to make sure that if people click on your link and they're coming into to use the app, that they can log in, that they can actually use the app. Otherwise, it's a huge missed opportunity. So
You want to have it tested?
yeah, you want to have it tested. Maybe if you want to do some sort of like a landing page, you can get people to promote it on like micro-influencers on Instagram or TikTok or something. And if you just want to get people to sign up on your website for like a beta. But there are certain cards that you can only use a handful of times. Don't use them too early. You want to make sure, for us, it's like, now we think, okay, if we want to be featured on the App Store, well, we want to make sure that everyone can log in, that everyone goes through the funnel, that people start a trial. Because now we're thinking we want to make sure they go through this process perfectly, so we generate revenue rather than just getting new users. So you have to think about when you want to use that card, early on or later on. And if you want to use it later on, there's nothing wrong with building the relationship. Just like try not to be transactional. Don't be transactional. Be human. So don't use people for what they do. Don't use people for like, hey, my name is Christian, can you write about me? No, try to get to know them. Try to get, why do they care about this? Can you, one of the things that Techstars taught us is give first. What can you give? Oh, can I introduce you to this other founder? Or can I give you some research on the things that we learned? You're giving without asking, and eventually you will have an ask, and at that point you've helped enough. Yeah? Sorry, what?
Did you guys find yourself changing your elevator pitch, or did it always stay the same?
Oh, it's always changing.
What's the latest, if you don't mind?
We are a digital wellness company that's helping people be happy, healthier, and more productive. So it just really, sometimes it changes based on the audience too, but we try to keep it light, short, and enough room to let people with questions. Okay, I don't know how much time I have left. Just let me double check. Okay, I still have time. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you get the first few employees
Yes, so I believe that your early employees are part of your founding team. They put in a lot of the work, so you can offer them equity. But again, similar to what I said about the founders agreement, there is employees agreement. So when you hire someone, you say we're going to offer you equity, but it's over 4 years. It's ESOP. There's a lot of content about it, but it's 4 years. You don't get anything until you hit the first year. Then quarterly, you start getting a little percentage, and that keeps them motivated to continue working with you for longer. But it also allows you to negotiate salaries. They get more invested into the product because they're part of they're owners of the product. So I find like my team is my founding team. Like I wouldn't be able to get to where we are today if it wasn't for them and for the amount of work that they put in. So I care so much about them, and that's why we do that second Thursdays, and we do all these little things to make sure that we're excited about what we're doing and we're taking care of our people. Yep.
So early on, how did you figure out the funding?
So the funding started with the co-founders were the first ones to put in a little bit of money. So we put in our money. We're just not paying ourselves, trying to figure out a model, trying to figure out to see if we had users. Then we got entrance. Then we were like, we want some money, but we didn't really want it to go for family and friends first. It's a risky thing to ask people for money, and especially if you don't think that you're gonna succeed, then it might be some weird Christmas dinners, right? So you don't want to go and ask them for money right away. I went to some conferences. Like I said, I'm a networker, so during the conferences, I talked to people all the time. I ended up connecting with this person that was starting an incubator. The incubator was actually in Mexico, and he was like, yeah, we're starting an incubator. We're going to be working on a university. You can do research, and we give away $30,000 USD. And I'm like, okay, it sounds like a great opportunity. And I was in transition, so that's sort of like the first money we ever took in. And it allows us to invest 100% of our time for 6 months. With that money ended up going a long way, and it allows us to really focus on the product. Some people do the incubators. Some people already have money. I mean, if you don't have to take money, don't take any money. But if you need some initial money, then take it and make sure that you try to maximize it as much as you can, because you don't know when you'll be getting the next round of money. Yeah. Yep. Oh, sorry. You're next.
So I started a company with 8 of my friends, and recently 4 of us we want to take it a little more seriously. The 4 of us kind of like took the role of execs. So how would you go about keeping a relationship with the rest of your 4, especially when you start off as friends? And like, I guess the idea of employees is part of the pitch when it's like friends you grew up with. So how would you go about that?
Yeah, hiring friends it's really, really hard. Because you build one relationship outside of work, and then once you start working, it becomes more serious, and you have expectations between the co-founders, between everyone that is involved, and if people are not delivering, then you might have to have the serious talk and say, look, you're not taking this seriously. I think maybe that's the right time where you can bring in, like, we want to do like an agreement, and here are the expectations of how we want everyone to perform. And if you're not performing, you might be removed and you don't get anything. And it's not like you're gonna come out of nowhere and tell people you're done. It's like we do one-on-ones. We try to do it monthly, but I think it's maybe every 45 days. And it's a way to check in with people performance-wise. How are they doing? How am I doing? How can it be better? So communication is clear, right? What's happening? How can I help you? Maybe some people just lose motivation, and that could be an opportunity to motivate them. So create a structure where you can talk to them openly, and if things are not heading in the right direction, and if you need to have the hard talk, say, look, maybe this is not for you, and that's okay. And yeah, see how that happens. I'm just go with you.
Just 2 questions. The first one is which is the area other than developers and maybe marketing
that you cannot live with right now? And the second question is, do you have remote teams building your business? How do you deal with that?
Okay, so I'll start with the second one. So my first company, we actually outsourced the development, and that ended up being very expensive. It's really hard when you don't have someone kind of in there having meetings with you all the time, because you're gonna change things, little things might change. And when you're working with an outside company, they're billing you for all of this. So the bill is gonna continue to grow. And sometimes they see it as like projects done. If you need apps and technology need upgrade, iOS 10, iOS 11, like these things are changing, that's gonna cost you money. So sometimes it might make sense to bring someone in here that's willing to work, that's willing to put some sweat equity to build that with you, and maybe they take some ownership, maybe they don't, maybe they just get paid a salary. But from my experience working with a remote team or a team that was not in-house, and there's too many variables, too many things change, ended up being a lot of money. That was one of the reasons, other than too many chefs in the kitchen, was that the product was not getting where we needed it to be, and it ended up getting more expensive and more expensive. At least with people in your team, you know how much it's gonna cost every month. And if they're gonna leave, well, they probably give you a heads up, and then you have enough of a leeway to hire someone new. Things that I can live without. The team, honestly, I don't know. They all play such an important role. Every single person covers anything from our community manager who has a bunch of influencers that work for her. She manages more people than I do via Slack, and they provide us with so much feedback, and they help us get new users. And then our product, it's like there's always things changing, and if we don't improve the product, then think that I can live. That I don't know how to answer that one. I think.
What do you think you want to have, but you're kind of postponing that you say, well, I don't need this right now?
Growth. So for me, before I make the team even bigger, I like to do a lot of de-risking. So we're doing a ton of de-risking when it comes to money spent on ads, money spent on even sales salaries and all that. We want to make sure that when we bring people in and we are spending a lot of money, that it's gonna work. That this is not a risk that we're taking, it's not a chance, it's like we've proven it, it's gonna work, now let's commit. That's where I really kind of hold up certain VC conversations. Like, I wanna make sure that I prove this, so when you come up with a million questions, done that, didn't work, tried that, not so good, this model really works, there's a lot of money to be made here. I've answered all of the questions, I've de-risked it, and I'm not taking any, this is the time to do experiments where, yes, you might have done an experiment and it cost you $10,000. That's not a lot of money when you could have done that at a larger scale and been $1 million. And now you're $1 million out with something that you could have done for less money.
I guess for the first startup, you mentioned that you're outsourcing development, right?
Yeah.
So for the second one, I'm guessing if you did that house.
Yep.
How did you find the sort of headcount to go and hire people? Because I'm guessing you and your co-founder both did not have the tech skills.
No, so we had a third co-founder that was technical. So that person helped with a lot of the development and bring in new hires. He built the MVP. And then after that, and we proven that maybe we need more hands, they were like, well, we had it on Android, now we need to build it on iOS. And he didn't know how to build iOS. We're like, well, let's. I don't think we hire right away. I think we hire people as contractors, but they were local in Toronto, but they were his friends. Yeah, and so that's a whole different story. Okay, I cover most of this, so I'll just do Q&A. Talk about KPIs, celebrate milestones, challenge your team, which I've covered all of these things. So. Yeah, I cover everything, so I'll just do Q&A. But if you're looking to find people, I just want to make sure that you know, most of the time where we find talent, new hires, is through our network. People in the startup scene, friends, people who's hiring. We usually just connect with people. usually the people that make the best referrals. No one's gonna refer someone else if they don't really believe on that person. Incubators and accelerators, like I said, Techstars, the DMC. There's a lot of events that happen there. Great place to meet people, to learn from other people that with more experience. If you can have a mentor, someone that is one stage, I recommend always someone that's one stage ahead of you, someone that just has the fresh battle scars to tell you, oh yeah, I just closed my Series A and that was hard and here is why. That's someone that did it 10 years ago. The experience could have completely changed. So have someone that is very fresh and can tell you everything in a very real way. LinkedIn is a really good spot to ask people if they want to work. Our last hire, we were just looking for someone in a specific position. We did some LinkedIn stuff. This person wasn't looking for a job, but turns out he was interested, and then we ended up hiring. So you never know the power of LinkedIn, and we didn't pay for that. We were just doing research. AngelList, also, same thing. It's a good place to find people in the tech space or people that want to work for startups. Industry events, meetups, things like this. It's a really good place to just find like-minded individuals that want to be involved in the tech, or in a startup. It's really awesome to see all of you guys here wanting to start a startup. It's such a hard but rewarding process. I can't tell you how great it feels to get your first 100 downloads or get your first $1,000 and hire your first group of people, hire your first office. All these experiences are so fun, and it's all worth it. As hard as it gets, there's no better feeling than to know it's like, hey, we did this together, we went through the ups and downs. And even if you fail, you come out and learning so much. I didn't come out of my first startup thinking, well, I failed, I'm never gonna do that again. It's like, I know how I failed, I know how I'm gonna do it better the second time, the third time. So there's all these things that you're constantly learning, you're getting out of your comfort zone, you have to pick up skills that you don't have. If you don't know how to code, if you don't know how to do presentations, if you don't know, there's so many things that you have to learn, and it's exciting. And if you can't do it, then maybe your co-founder will. If not, you hire someone else, and then you grow your team, and then you're dealing with different challenges, because now it's like, oh, now we have 8 people and everyone wants something different, and how do we make this all work? So I always say just enjoy the dance. This whole thing is a dance. You're learning, you're just enjoying it. It will get hard, but hard things only last for so long, and then you'll get back to the normal thing. So enjoy the journey. I'll just do more Q&A, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. I'll start with back there.
What type of value did you like to offer mentors to make them want to work with you and build a relationship with you?
None. I just tell, because mentors will be helpful in a very specific time of your life. So if they're mentors, they only help you for a certain stage. There might be advisors that you want to bring in for later on, but you don't know what kind of problems you'll be there. So just kind of be in the moment. Also have mentors that can help guide you and advise you on certain things. Like my investors are my mentors. I reach out to them and hey, I have a problem. Some of them have started companies. They can tell me, here's how you deal with this. So make sure that you have people around you that support you, that are helping you grow, that you can trust, that if you say, hey, you can't talk to anyone about this, that they won't. And if people are give first, right? You want someone in your team that's willing to give you, and then maybe at one point say, hey, I really want to bring you on as an advisor and I want to give you some equity, then that conversation will come. But you don't think about it as I'm going to start giving everyone equity. It's you don't know, you might use them for one conversation and now you're already giving away some of it. If you join programs like Techstars, you're already given access to 100 of them that they don't get anything. So just find those networks where you get access to mentors. Yep.
In terms of screen time, with the new iOS update that came onto MacBook, and all the iPhone devices, how are you guys able to compete with that, and what was your next for it?
So what was great when all of you guys have iPhones or Androids, and you know that 2018 they introduced screen time features where it tells you spend this many hours on Instagram and stuff like that. For us, that was a great. I usually call it was a weight scale. It made it and made everyone aware of a problem that they didn't know. Not a lot of people knew how much time they were spending on your phones. They didn't build anything new, in fact. Before this update, you could have gone to your settings and it will tell you where you were spending, like what things were killing your battery. And then you know, I'm spending too much time on Instagram. So they just kind of reworded all that. But what it did is it made the market aware, and it actually brought more traffic to us, which was great. A lot of people were concerned, like investors, like what does this mean? But for us, I call it a weight scale because everyone had to stand on it and be like, oh, I'm spending too much time on social media. What am I gonna do about it? And that led to people ending with solutions like Flipped. What's next? We really want to focus on becoming a product that people use every day. So those are the things that we're trying to do we try to look at the things that we use already every day. It's like, how do we become part of that? And we have active users that are 7-day active users, but they don't use it every day. The next challenge is, let's make them use it every single day. And a lot of companies do gamifications, notifications, all those things. So it's a fine line, but it's a fun challenge. And one of the things that we allow our team is like, let's come up with in a room, let's come up with hypotheses of features, the things that we want to build, and then we test them. We don't know when you, as a founder, say, I don't know what's the right answer, I'm going to let the data tell me. Data tells you a lot of fun things. So it's nice. At first, you don't have data, so you have to make the gut decisions, but try to make sure that you add something in your code that it's providing you with some data that allows you to make decisions. Database decisions will help you a lot. Yep.
So, great presentation. I had a quick question. So, when you're actually analyzing your key performance metrics, how much time do you spend on user behavior, like what people have done in their journey versus just adding numbers? Like, because a lot of apps today are adding on numbers. So you get to listen to stories where people have added like 10,000 users, 20,000 users, but then how much time are you focusing on knowing each of them, or like what are they up to?
So we kind of look at everyone as cohorts. Power user, like super power user, like we kind of looked at them like that. One of the people that we hired, like our second last hired, she graduated from Ryerson. She has a background in UX and design. And the way that she comes to any problem is we gotta do research, we gotta get more data. So she actually gets on calls with users, looks at how they use the app, and we get so much valuable data for that. And like you ask how many people, we try to get 10. Can we talk to 10 of our customers and ask them what they think about the app? What don't they like about the app? We try to, even though everyone's in different pockets, there are different users, and we try to understand them, their needs, what other tools are they using that we could implement into our software that are currently not there. So you need to have someone in your team that is a champion for your users. Someone that does the support and understands the pains and the issues, and it's like, no, we can't change this because I know our users are going to be really mad. You need someone that's always watching out for your users and knows them really, really well. So we have people on our team they spend a lot of time understanding the user journey and the user behaviors. And one of the things that we're testing now, it's like, here's our KPI, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to increase active users. Well, how do we create a behavior that will lead the user into becoming an active user, but not, like we create hypotheses and then we try different things and see which one works the best. So that's how we do it right now. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
So I previously had a venture and I opened it and I had 5 founders with me and they were friends, and it was really difficult. Now starting a new thing, I've never gone through the process of actually having to find a partner. And one thing I heard in the past was like, if you have 2 founders, then it just creates it so that you can get into stalemates, or it's easy to get stuck because it's just 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you avoid that? So that's the first question. And the second is, in searching for a founder, it sounds like it's pretty important to have other founders near the beginning. Is it something that you feel is more of an intentional outreach, or something that maybe happens more through you doing good work and then people coming to you?
purposely wanted, like from the beginning, I knew I wanted a co-founder. I knew that it was gonna get hard, and I knew I was gonna need someone to pick me up when I was down, and I wanted to share the experience with someone. So for me, and I knew the things that I wasn't good at. So I wasn't gonna pretend like, oh, I'm gonna try to code, or I'm gonna try to do like write articles and do like all this stuff that I'm not good at. So right away I was just like, if I'm starting with what co-founder, what skills would they have? And then it was just us two, and then it's okay to start with friends. To just make sure that you completely align with everything, and find someone that's opposite, someone that thinks completely different than you. I am the super optimistic person. My co-founder is the complete opposite, and that's how we've built all our projections. It's like, what happens if we do 100%? What happens if we don't perform at all? Like, what risk are we at? Like, we're gonna have to let people go, and it's important to have someone. I don't need someone in my team to tell me, I agree, your ideas are great, let's keep doing that. I need someone just playing devil's advocate. That it's comfortable enough to do that, and kind of challenge every single decision. So that way, when you agreed on something, it's like, yeah, we agreed on that together. So if you spend time going back and forth, it's worth it. Like a lot of times, sometimes people want to focus on execution, but I can't tell you how important planning is. Like we constantly tell our team, plan, because it saves you time on executing. If you plan every scenario, you plan all the design, you did everything for the product, then when you actually hire a team to do it, they know there's not gonna be in the middle way, oh, we gotta change something here, because you already thought about all that. So planning is really, really important, and then you might spend less time executing because people know exactly what they need to do. Okay?
And sorry, just to follow up, in terms of how do you manage that dynamic then, if you bring someone on, are you still kind of being the main decision maker, or does it become like a partnership of equal say sort of thing?
I try to do equal say. Like I don't like pulling the, oh, well, I'm the CEO, I make the last say. Like I want to make sure that I believe it. So like if I don't believe in it, get me to believe in it. Like I come back and say, yeah, you're totally right. Like it shouldn't be like, otherwise then you can just be the only person saying, why do you need someone else if you always want to be agreed on? Like try to sit on the other person's shoes. Okay, I get it, but here, like, and you will spend time debating it and arguing, and sometimes like, I do this with my partner, then we go home together, and I'm like, then when we step out, it's just like, this is where work stays, and then we go home, and tomorrow we'll keep trying to figure out what's the right decision. So it's okay. Like, so early on, you don't know who's right and who's not, but you want to make sure that you both are ready to jump on this journey, agreeing on that. And things will get harder as more people get involved, more decisions need to be made, and then you start getting a process. But when you have data, it makes the process easier, because then you're just like, I think I would this, and it's like, well, no, this is right. Look at the data. You're like, shoot, okay, you win. Yeah. I gotta wrap it up, guys. I've been given the, but I'm gonna be here. If you have any other questions, feel free to walk up to me and ask me anything. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you guys coming here and listening to me. I hope this was helpful.